Imagine this. It's the late 19th century, and British explorers stumble upon a city in West Africa. They're expecting primitive huts and a simple society. Instead, they find a sprawling, meticulously planned metropolis, with streets wider than any in Amsterdam, and a palace adorned with thousands of intricate brass plaques and sculptures. The art is so sophisticated, so breathtakingly realistic, that the Europeans refuse to believe it was made by Africans. They invent stories of lost Portuguese colonies or even the mythical city of Atlantis to explain its existence. This wasn't Atlantis. This was the mighty Kingdom of Benin, and its story is one of power, artistry, and a tragic clash of civilizations that Europe tried to erase. Today, we uncover the untold story of how this African empire shocked the world. Our journey begins not in the 19th century, but hundreds of years earlier, deep in the lush rainforests of what is now modern-day Nigeria. The Kingdom of Benin emerged around the 11th century, founded by the Edo people. From its very beginnings, it was destined for greatness. The heart of the kingdom was its capital, Edo, known today as Benin City. Early Portuguese explorers who arrived in the 15th century were astounded. They described a city protected by massive earthworks, a complex system of walls and moats stretching for thousands of kilometers, even larger than the Great Wall of China. At the center of this fortified city stood the Oba, the divine king of Benin. The Oba was more than just a ruler. He was the spiritual, political, and cultural heart of the kingdom. He was believed to be a direct descendant of Osanobwa, the creator god. His palace was a sprawling complex, a city within a city, with countless courtyards, galleries, and chambers, each more lavishly decorated than the last. And this is where the famous Benin bronzes come in. These weren't just decorations. The thousands of brass and bronze plaques that lined the palace walls were a living library, a historical record of the kingdom. Each plaque depicted a specific event, a noble king, a victorious battle, or a significant court ceremony. They chronicled the lineage of the Obas, celebrated military triumphs, and documented the kingdom's interactions with foreign powers, including the Portuguese, who are often depicted with their distinct long hair and aquiline noses. The craftsmanship was simply unparalleled. The artists of Benin, organized into highly skilled guilds, used the lost wax casting technique, a method so advanced it rivaled that of the masters of the European Renaissance. They created sculptures with astonishing detail, the intricate patterns on a warrior's armor, the subtle expressions on a queen mother's face, the texture of a leopard's skin. These weren't just metal castings. They were life frozen in time, imbued with the spirit and history of the Edo people. The bronzes told the story of a complex society with a rich hierarchy, powerful queen mothers known as Iobas, fierce warriors, and mystical priests. For centuries, Benin thrived. It was a major trading power, dealing in goods like ivory, palm oil, and pepper with both its African neighbors and European merchants who sailed to its coast. The relationship with the Portuguese, for example, was initially one of mutual respect and trade. Benin controlled the terms of engagement, and its art from this period shows a confident, cosmopolitan kingdom interacting with the wider world on its own terms. The kingdom was stable, prosperous, and artistically brilliant. But the winds of change were blowing across Europe, and the storm was heading for Benin. By the late 19th century, the scramble for Africa was in full swing. European powers were carving up the continent, hungry for resources and territory. Great Britain, seeking to expand its control over the lucrative palm oil trade in the region, set its sights on the independent Kingdom of Benin. The kingdom, which had long controlled its own trade, resisted British encroachment. Tensions escalated. In 1897, a British delegation, led by acting Consul General James Phillips, decided to march on Benin City during a sacred festival, despite being warned not to by the Oba's messengers. The result was a disaster. The delegation was ambushed, and most of its members were killed. The British press framed this as a savage massacre. In reality, it was the pretext Britain needed. Within weeks, they launched the punitive expedition. This wasn't a battle, it was an overwhelming assault. A force of 1,200 well-armed British soldiers marched on Benin City, burning villages along the way. When they reached the capital, they unleashed their firepower. The great city, which had stood for centuries, was systematically looted and burned to the ground. The great walls were breached, the palace was ransacked, and the city was reduced to ashes. And then came the looting. The soldiers seized everything of value. Most importantly, they stripped the palace of its historical treasures, the ivory tusks, the royal regalia, and, of course, the thousands of bronze and brass sculptures. These sacred objects, the very soul and history of the Benin Kingdom, were packed into crates and shipped back to London. When the Benin bronzes arrived in Europe, they caused a sensation and a deep-seated crisis of conscience, though many wouldn't admit it. Museum curators, anthropologists, and the general public were stunned. How could a so-called primitive African society produce art of such technical and aesthetic genius? Unable to reconcile their racist views with the evidence before their eyes, many Europeans simply denied the artwork's origins. They fabricated theories, claiming the artists must have been taught by the Portuguese, or that they were relics from a lost white civilization. But the truth was undeniable. The Benin bronzes were a testament to a powerful, indigenous African civilization. The objects were sold off to pay for the expedition, scattered across the globe into the collections of private individuals and public museums in London, Berlin, Paris, and New York. For over a century, these stolen artifacts have been celebrated in Western museums as masterpieces of world art, while their origins, born of a vibrant culture and stolen through violent conquest, were often glossed over or ignored completely. For the people of Benin, the loss was catastrophic. It was not just the theft of art, it was the theft of their history, their identity, and their spiritual heritage. The fire of 1897 destroyed their capital, but the looting of their art tore a hole in their collective soul. Today, a new chapter in this story is being written. For decades, Nigeria and the royal court of Benin have been campaigning for the return of their stolen treasures. And slowly, the world is beginning to listen. Museums across Europe and America are finally confronting their colonial legacies. Germany has pledged to return its vast collection. France is making similar moves. The Horniman Museum in London has returned ownership of its collection to Nigeria. It's a slow and complex process, but it marks a monumental shift. The return of the Benin bronzes is more than just an act of restitution. It's about restoring a stolen history. It's about acknowledging the injustice of the past and working towards a more equitable future. A new museum, the Edo Museum of West African Art, is being built in Benin City, designed to house the returned artifacts and become a world-class center for the study and celebration of West African heritage right where it belongs. The story of the Benin Kingdom is a powerful reminder that history is often written by the victors, and that true stories can be buried but never truly destroyed. The beauty and sophistication of the Benin bronzes defied the colonial narrative then, and they continue to challenge us now. They are not just beautiful objects. They are symbols of resilience, a testament to a great civilization that shocked Europe and continues to inspire the world. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the heart of the Benin Kingdom. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more untold histories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep exploring.